I still remember the way my hands shook when I handed her the envelope. $17,000. Every dime I'd saved over the past 3 years. Birthday checks, weekend shifts at the grocery store, tax refunds, side gigs. All of it wrapped in a rubber band and placed into my sister's hands because I trusted her. Because she was older. Because she said she'd keep it safe while I worked through my final semester of nursing school. I couldn't qualify for a mortgage until graduation, but I had my eye on a little starter home near downtown. It wasn't much, but it had a porch, a yard, and enough sunlight to feel like I could finally breathe. "I'll hold it until you're ready," she said, giving me a fake little smile that felt real at the time. "You've worked too hard to risk putting it in a bad bank or something." I didn't question it. I was too tired, too hopeful, and too damn proud to think my own sister would betray me. 3 months passed. I aced my licensing exam. Landed a solid job offer from St. Mary's Hospital. The first thing I did was call Jasmine and tell her I was ready. I could hear traffic in the background and some loud bass thumping through her speaker. "Oh right," she said, dragging the words. "We should talk. Can you come over?" My stomach dropped. Something in her tone. I pulled up to her apartment that night expecting a conversation. What I got was a confrontation. Sitting in the driveway was a brand new Lexus. Silver. Shiny. Ridiculous. And when I stepped inside her living room, the truth hit me like a brick. She'd spent my house fund. "It was just sitting there," she yelled. "You weren't even using it. I needed a car to get to work, to grow my business. It's still technically an investment." My throat went dry. "Jasmine, that was my future. That was my house." She shrugged. Like it was some misunderstanding. "Relax, I'll pay you back eventually," she said, flipping her hair like she hadn't just set fire to everything I worked for. I didn't cry in front of her. I walked out without another word. But when I called my parents, shaking, hurt, desperate for someone to tell me I wasn't crazy, the response I got made everything worse. "Well," my mom said slowly, "maybe you should have just kept the money yourself if it was that important." My dad chimed in too. "She's trying her best, sweetie. You have to understand she's under pressure. Maybe it was a little selfish of you to put that burden on her in the first place." I stood there, phone to my ear, listening to the people who raised me defend her. I realized right then, I wasn't just robbed. I was abandoned. The people who were supposed to protect me were the ones excusing the theft. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling and made a vow. I might not get my money back, but I would get the last word. Jasmine may have stolen my house fund, but she was about to learn what happens when you try to bury someone who built everything with their bare hands. The next morning, I woke up with a hollow pit in my chest. My eyes burned from a night without sleep, and my jaw ached from clenching it for hours. I wanted to believe it had been a nightmare, that Jasmine didn't actually spend my house fund on a Lexus she didn't need, that my parents didn't take her side. But the cold silence of my apartment reminded me exactly where I stood. Alone, broke, and betrayed by the people who should have had my back. I tried to go about my day, but my body moved like it was underwater. I clocked into my shift at St. Mary's, helped deliver a baby, charted vitals, smiled at patients, but every second, the betrayal sat under my skin like a splinter too deep to reach. Jasmine hadn't just stolen from me. She'd spit on my work, my sacrifices, and my parents. They didn't even call to check on me. I wasn't their daughter in that moment. I was a problem they didn't want to deal with. That weekend, I went back to her apartment. Not to fight. To ask, calmly, what her plan was to pay me back. She opened the door in fuzzy slippers, holding a boba tea and wearing new lashes. "Why are you acting like I killed someone?" she said, annoyed, like I was the drama. "It was just money. You're making way more than me now. You'll bounce back." I stared at her. Really stared. "You think I saved for years to bounce back after you stole it?" Her expression hardened. "I didn't steal it. You gave it to me. There's a difference." I couldn't believe it. She was rewriting the story in real time. I took a deep breath. Put it in writing then, I said. A loan agreement. You agree to pay me back every month, starting now. She scoffed. I'm not signing anything. You want to drag family into legal stuff now. She slammed the door in my face. I stood there, hands shaking, heart pounding. That's when it clicked. Jasmine didn't feel guilty because she'd never had to. She was the golden child. She got in trouble, and my parents made excuses. She borrowed money, and no one chased her. She failed out of college, and they called her creative. Me. I got straight A's, skipped parties, worked double shifts, and all I got was pressure to be the responsible one. But that role was over. I wasn't going to be the quiet, polite sibling anymore. I went home and opened my laptop. I started gathering everything. Texts, bank withdrawals, messages where she admitted to holding the money. I wasn't going to court yet. I was going to build something stronger. A record. A wall of truth. I sent her one final message. You have 30 days to return my money or I'll make sure you never get a dime from me or any future I build. She replied with one emoji, face with rolling eyes. She had no idea that the woman she stole from wasn't the same one she grew up with. I wasn't a little sister anymore. I was her reckoning. I didn't hear from Jasmine again for 2 weeks. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a fake apology. She acted like what she did didn't matter, as if it was just a bump in the road, and we'd be back to family dinners and fake smiles in no time. But something in me had changed. It was like a piece of me had snapped off, and in its place grew something sharper. I wasn't mourning the money anymore. I was mourning the illusion. The illusion that family would protect you. That hard work always paid off. That being the good child would someday earn you respect. I started coming home from my hospital shifts and pouring my energy into something else. Me. I researched real estate law, learned how small claims court worked, started talking to friends who'd gone through civil disputes. I wasn't going to let her slide. Not this time. If my parents wanted to protect her, let them. I wasn't playing by family rules anymore. I was building my own. And then the kicker came. My mom called. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity got the better of me. Hi, sweetheart, she said, all sweet and casual like nothing had happened. Jasmine said you're threatening to sue her? Over a misunderstanding. I closed my eyes, counted to 5. It wasn't a misunderstanding. She spent my house fund. I asked her to return it. She refused. My mom sighed like I was the exhausting one. You know your sister's struggling. She's trying to get her business off the ground. That car helps her do deliveries. Maybe you could just let this one go. Help her get started. I laughed. Out loud. She stole from me, Mom. You told me to give her the money. That's when her tone changed. Cold, quiet. Well, maybe you shouldn't have given it to her if you weren't ready to lose it. This is why we've always said you take things too personally. I hung up. I didn't throw my phone or cry. I just stood there in silence, my heart calm for the first time in weeks. My parents had chosen their side. Again. Jasmine was their investment now. Their project. Their helpless golden girl. Me. I was just the ATM with a diploma. But I knew something they didn't. I had receipts, I had resolve, and I had a future they couldn't touch. That night, I filed the paperwork for small claims court. It was a long shot. The amount was just under the state cap, and there was no formal contract, but I had enough digital evidence to build a case around verbal agreement and fraud. My hands didn't shake this time. 2 days later, Jasmine texted me. If you go through with this, don't bother showing up for Dad's birthday. I stared at that text and smiled. Finally, she'd shown her hand. She thought cutting me out was a threat. But for me, it was freedom. Filing the lawsuit wasn't nearly as satisfying as I'd imagined. It was paperwork, waiting, 100 little boxes to check, but every time I clicked submit, It felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. I gathered screenshots of every text, bank records showing the withdrawal I made before handing her the cash, and emails I sent following up, ones she ignored. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I wasn't suing her for revenge. I was doing it because no one else had ever held her accountable. The court date was set for 4 weeks out. I sent her the notice with no message attached. 3 hours later, I got a call from my dad. "Can we talk?" he said, voice heavy with guilt, or maybe just inconvenience. I let him talk. He started with a sigh, then the usual script. "She made a mistake. But dragging your sister into court? It's embarrassing. It's just going to make you look bitter. That's not who you are." I bit my tongue. Then I asked him flat out, "If I had spent her money without asking, would you be calling her right now? Or would I already be excommunicated?" He didn't answer. Just silence. Then, "You've always been the strong one." I nearly laughed. "No, Dad. I've always been the one who cleaned up after her. That ends now." The next week, Jasmine finally responded, through her own version of damage control. She posted some cryptic nonsense on Instagram about haters and family betrayal, with a selfie of her standing next to her Lexus, captioned, "When you level up, not everyone celebrates you." The comments were full of her friends gassing her up, calling her a boss, a queen, and too real for fake family. I didn't reply. I didn't comment. But I screen recorded everything. Then, 3 days before the court date, she texted, "If I give you $5,000 now, will you drop it? That's more than fair." I stared at the screen, my heart thudding. She thought she could settle it like it was a parking ticket. Like I was bluffing. I didn't respond. I sent the message to the court as evidence of admission. And when the day came, I stood alone outside the courthouse, dressed in the only blazer I owned, while she pulled up 10 minutes late in stilettos and sunglasses like it was a brunch date. My parents didn't show. I wasn't surprised. Inside, she tried to charm the judge. Giggled when she called me extra, and said I gave her the money like a gift. I handed the judge the screenshots, the texts, the voice memo where she said, "I'll hold it until you're ready." I read a statement I wrote the night before, hands steady. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just told the truth. That I worked for 3 years to save for a home. That I trusted my sister. That she took it without permission, and when confronted, refused to return it. The judge looked at her, then back at me, and finally said, "This isn't a gift. It's a betrayal. And you owe your sister the full amount." Jasmine's face froze. Her mouth opened like she couldn't breathe. I walked out of the courtroom before she even stood up. I had my dignity. And now, I had a judgment in my favor. Winning didn't feel like a victory parade. There was no confetti, no celebration, no phone call from my parents saying, "We were wrong." It felt more like walking away from a burning house. Quiet, shaken, scorched but still standing. The judge awarded me the full $17,000, plus small court fees. But collecting it, that was another mountain. Jasmine didn't say a word after the ruling. She didn't look at me, didn't text me, didn't even post about it. Which meant she was plotting. I knew her. She never lost quietly. So I did what I had to. I filed for a lien on her car. Her precious Lexus. The same one she said was technically an investment. It was registered in her name. It had value. I'd warned her. She chose the game. Now I was playing it by the rules she ignored. The DMV process was a headache. I had to show proof of the court judgment, send notice, wait for response windows. Jasmine didn't respond, of course. She thought ignoring it would make it disappear. But the paperwork went through. And one morning, she woke up to find her Lexus booted in the parking lot of her apartment complex. A tow order was placed that afternoon. I didn't even have to be there. I just got the update in my email. And for a second, I felt guilty. Not because I didn't have a right to do it, but because some part of me still remembered braiding her hair in the hallway before school, or watching movies together when Mom worked late. But those memories weren't stronger than reality. She had taken from me, lied, laughed about it, mocked me publicly. I owed her nothing. My phone rang later that evening. No caller ID. I knew it was her. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was venom masked as sugar. Wow. Real mature. You really think this makes you better than me? You'll always be bitter and alone. Good luck buying your little house with blood money. Blood money. She said that. As if my own savings, my own sweat, my own hustle, was something stolen. I laughed out loud, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. She didn't get it. She never would. She still believed life owed her something. That she was the main character in every room. And now, reality had slapped her with a court order. The next day, my parents called. Not to apologize. Not to ask how I was. But to say I'd gone too far. My mom said, "You humiliated her. She's your sister." And I said, "No. She was my sister. Until she chose a car over my future." My dad tried to be the peacekeeper. "Maybe you can give her time. She's young." I told him we were 2 years apart. And that being young isn't the same as being selfish. Then I blocked both of them. The silence that followed was the loudest peace I'd ever known. 3 weeks later, the money landed in my account. I stared at the transaction, took a screenshot, and closed the app. No celebration. Just one deep breath. Then I opened Zillow and started looking again. Because this time, when I bought my house, it would be mine, and mine alone. I didn't tell anyone when I put in the offer. No text to old friends, no update on socials, not even a mention to coworkers. I'd learned the hard way. Some things are better when they're protected in silence. It was a modest little place on the east side. 2 bedrooms, white siding, a wraparound porch, and a lemon tree in the backyard. The listing photos didn't do it justice. The second I stepped inside, it just felt like mine. Not flashy. Not new. But solid. Honest. Exactly what I'd been working for since high school. I sent in my offer that same afternoon. Heart pounding, fingers crossed. 3 days later, my realtor called. They accepted. "You're a homeowner." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just closed my eyes and let the moment fill me up. This wasn't a gift. It wasn't luck. This was mine because I made it happen. I picked up the keys 2 weeks later. I didn't post a picture. I didn't do a TikTok reveal or host a housewarming. I just drove to the address, unlocked the front door, and stood in the living room with the kind of stillness that only comes after surviving a storm. There were no footsteps behind me. No voices telling me to share. No sister trying to borrow something. Just me, and the quiet hum of a fridge I owned, inside a house I paid for, with money I fought to reclaim. I dropped my bag in the corner, sat on the floor, and just stared at the walls. The paint was peeling. The floorboards creaked. But it was mine. I didn't need approval anymore. I didn't need validation. I didn't need to explain. But Jasmine, she wasn't done. She didn't congratulate me. She didn't even pretend to be happy. Instead, she posted a photo from some dealership, standing next to another car, cheaper this time, older, and captioned it, "Rebuilding, even after betrayal. Some of us don't steal to win." It was a subtweet dressed as a sermon. The comments were full of her usual audience. "You're so strong. Bounce back, queen. Don't let fake people stop your grind." She was playing the victim. Again. And maybe a few years ago, that would have broken me. Maybe I'd have tried to fix it. To explain. To win the moral high ground. But now. I didn't even finish reading it. I closed the app and walked outside barefoot onto the porch I'd always dreamed of. The sun was setting behind my lemon tree. The breeze carried that faint scent of home. And in that moment, I realized something important. She could lie to the internet all she wanted. But the one thing she couldn't fake was ownership. I owned my truth. I owned my peace. And now, I owned my future. 2 months passed before I heard from my parents again. They showed up uninvited. My mom with a Tupperware of her famous sweet rice like that could erase the silence, and my dad wearing the same half-smile he used when I was 8 and fell off my bike. The kind that says, "I hope this is enough." I opened the door, not out of obligation, but curiosity. They stood on my porch looking smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I'd just grown. "We wanted to see the house," my mom said, eyes scanning the paint, the trim, the life I built without them. I stepped aside. "Don't touch anything," I said. It wasn't rude. It was truth. They walked in slowly, taking in the empty walls and the echo of real peace. My mom placed the rice on the counter. "It's nice," she said. "A little simple, but it's a good start." I looked her dead in the eye. "It's not a start. It's mine." My dad nodded awkwardly. "We didn't come to fight," he said. "Jasmine's still struggling, you know. Maybe you could reach out. Be the bigger person." I tilted my head. "You want me to be the bigger person? Again? After she stole from me, lied, played victim, and you cheered her on while she did it?" My mom looked down. She said she didn't know how badly it hurt you. I couldn't help it. I laughed. She knew. You all knew. You just didn't care enough to stop her. I let the silence sit. Let it sting. Then I said what I should have said years ago. You didn't just fail to protect me. You rewarded her for hurting me. And I spent years believing I had to earn your love by being perfect, quiet, responsible. But the truth is, I was never your priority. She was. My mom's lip quivered, but she didn't argue. For once. "We thought you were strong," my dad whispered. "We thought you didn't need as much." I looked around the room, the floor I mopped, the couch I paid for, the table I assembled with my own hands. "You were wrong," I said. "I did need you. You just weren't there." They left without finishing their tea. I didn't watch them go. Later that week, Jasmine sent a message. Not a call. Not a voice note. Just 5 words. "Hope you're happy." I'm not. And for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel sadness. I felt nothing. Because that was the final lesson. Forgiveness isn't always about opening the door again. Sometimes, it's just about locking it from the inside and throwing away the spare key.